It doesn't appear that we are going to be able to get the HX35 turbo on the 2001 24 valve Cummins today. What you see right there on the radar is actually going to be here in about 20 minutes. So what we're gonna do is continue to hit these with one more coat of paint, and then those will be good. If you check them out, the exhaust housing, the bearing housing, and the exhaust elbow all coated with a nice gloss fresh black. So that will be the sharpest looking part underneath the hood of the 01 24 valve Cummins, but we will get to other parts and make them look fresh as well. And we also have the compressor housing out right now, and I think because we're gonna get rain and I'm not gonna be able to get the HX35 on the 24 valve, we may just pull out the Dremel and continue to sand on this exhaust or this compressor housing a little bit and try to get it smoothed out just a little bit more. We might as well finish working on it a little bit and trying to get it cleaned up. Wow guys, I don't know, starting to look at this compressor housing and the work that I'm doing to it. You see that I am sanding it down, and I got a video out from a little while back where I was sanding it down to try and get rid of cast marks and just the little texture to it, just to smooth it out so that when it gets painted it will look better. Eventually it will get powder coated, but I don't know 100% what color theme I want to go with just yet. So we're just gonna get a can of paint, probably the same style engine enamel paint, something like that, so it can hold up to the heat just like the exhaust housing and everything, but we'll probably do a different color. Not gonna let you know which color yet, but look at this compressor housing, guys. It is coming out awesome. And if I had a truck that would match a polished cover, I would literally just put in the effort and elbow grease to really get into every nook and cranny and just polish this thing up, because tell me that thing doesn't look freaking awesome. So the grits that I've been using are an 80 grit, basically to take down most of the higher cast marks. So you see where it says holset on the top of the compressor housing? There were other cast marks like that all around the compressor housing, so I used an 80 grit to really kind of carve those down, and then switched to a 120 grit to smooth out the grooves from the 80 grit and start to get it into this condition. Now what I'll do before I paint it is I do have 400, like 1,000 and 2,000 grit, like I have all those higher up grits, and I will go over it with that just to really try and take out a little bit more of the marks from the sandpaper, so we can definitely smooth it over a little bit more. Not that we really have to, because we aren't going for a polished look. If we were going for a polished look and we wanted that nice glass mirror finish on it, then we would really have to get into all the little crevices. We would have to take down every little mark and then go over it like with paper right up to about a 3000 polishing paper, but we're not going for that. And because we are going to paint it, the paint will hide some flaws in it, which is why I'm not too concerned about really going over it super thorough and getting all of the little marks from the sandpaper out of it. I do want to try to get right down in the little crack here though, so that I can smooth that out just a little bit. I don't have to get in there too badly and take it down like I did the rest of it, and it will go on the 24 valve Cummins and look good, because the paint will, like I said, hide any of the little scratches from the paper or any little flaws. It'll fill all that in and it will look nice and smooth in the way that I want it to. But I mean, come on guys, can we just take a second to appreciate that? I wanted to go and take this all the way down and have it blend right in. It's really not that big of a deal to me, but I did want to have this just one smooth transition all the way up through. So this is a 400 grit paper right here. I I'm using a 400 grit paper right here just to kind of smooth out some of the marks from the 120 grit. We also did get the inside of this all cleaned out. That was pretty caked with some oil from the previous owner and whatever happened to this thing while it was on his truck. We got the inside of it all hosed out with some engine degreaser and brake clean, so it is all cleaned up. So once we get done doing our sanding and our touches to it, then we will go ahead and hose it out and then blow it out with some air, and it should be good to put on the truck. I am still debating whether or not I'm starting to not trust the HY35 so much, and I'm more or less getting anxious to see what the HX35 is going to do with those 125 horsepower injectors, because I have heard some decent stuff about upgrading to an HX35 on these automatic 24 valve Cummins trucks. When you are using a lower grit paper on a housing like this, you want to make sure that you are keeping it moving so that you don't create any flat spots in it. So you obviously want to keep the shape of the compressor housing and that roundness to it. So you don't want to stay in one spot too long. You can obviously reshape it and go over it, but you do want to try to keep moving so that you don't cause any flat spots, and it's not going to take you as long to get it done because you're trying to reshape or resculpt it. When you get into these finer grit papers though, it is okay to obviously go over one area without moving as much, but I still do recommend to keep it moving. I don't know how well this will show up on the camera, but if you look, you can still see minor little marks right there that I would have to go over and over and over with sanding this thing to get all those little pits and just that texture out of it. If I were to polish it, it really wouldn't match my truck all that well. So I'm not gonna worry about all those other little tiny marks. We got the bulk of them off of this compressor housing, so when it is painted, you'll never see those little marks, and it will look a hell of a lot better than it did originally before we started to sand down the marks and just kind of smooth it out. Now, if you did want to take your compressor housing to the point of polishing it, if you do have like a black and chrome theme or something, or you just have chrome on your truck and you wanted to keep this kind of looking the way that it did but polish it up and have it smoothed out looking like I am doing, well, you would definitely have to bump your way up in sandpaper and use finer grits, and you'd also get to a point where you're using like a 2000 and a 3000, but you'd be wet sanding it and using water to really smooth it out and bring out that shine and that nice luster in the compressor housing. I'm not going that far with it, like I said, but I just wanted to let you guys know if you did want to do that, you would start lower with like the 80 grit, take down your cast marks, use the 120, start to smooth out the marks from the 80 grit, and just keep working your way up. Go to a 220, a 120 to a 220, on up to like a 400 to an 800, a 1000, a 2000 to a 3000, and as you get into the 2000 and 3000 grit sandpaper, start getting it wet and wet sanding it, and it will really shine this thing up and polish it off nice, and it will look sexy as F on your truck. The rain has begun. We got the painted parts for the HX35 into the garage right now, and I just am continuing to work on this compressor housing. I did get down into this little crevice here where your cold air intake would hook up to the compressor housing. I was able to get those little marks and that texture smoothed out to some extent. Tell me this doesn't look money, guys, compared to what it did look like. Go out and take a look at the stock turbo on your truck, then take a look at this and tell me you don't want to take the turbo compressor housing off of your Cummins truck or your Power Stroke or your Duramax and just go to town on it, because man, when you clean them up, they sure do look pretty. But tell me if you didn't know the difference and I were to take the word holset right off of this compressor housing, you would not probably be able to tell the difference when this thing was mounted on the truck between it being an HX35 turbo or a little S300 series turbo. So honestly, you guys could do some serious trickery on people by simply pulling your turbo off, cleaning up the compressor housing and making it look something like this. People would definitely think that it was an aftermarket turbo, that you had something different stuffed under the hood of your diesel truck, and you know, they may be scared to line up and race you. baby, we got this HX35 coming along nice right now. We got the turbine in there with the shaft, we got the compressor wheel on it, the 12.10 millimeter compressor wheel nut all tightened down. She spins and doesn't, like, you can't spin it and watch it just go and spin, but she does spin freely. Definitely just feels better. It feels, I don't know. Once it gets in there into the truck and starts to spool a little bit and it's getting a constant supply of oil, I'm sure that it will free it up a little bit and it'll be kicking and just in good shape. I don't know though, this is the first turbo that I've ever rebuilt, so it's a learning experience for me, and we will find out when I put it on the truck. For all I know, the goddamn thing could just go and blow up. But I've got to say, guys, after getting it all cleaned down, it just freaking looks so much nicer, and I'm getting so amped up to get it on the truck. Let me show you what we got so far. There you have it. We got it all cleaned up, looking so fresh compared to what it was. So you can see what I'm talking about. If I spin that, it doesn't just keep on spinning or whatever. But once we get it on the truck though, and it has a constant oil feed to it and it gets a chance to spool and stuff, I'm sure it will be ready to rock and roll and in good shape. So I'm totally looking forward to this. I cannot wait to get it on there. All we have left to do, guys, is get that sexy looking compressor housing attached on here and get the wastegate set. So I think we're actually just gonna go ahead and do that now. I don't think I'm gonna worry about painting the compressor housing right now because it really makes no difference to me. It's not anything that's gonna like make me not sleep at night or whatnot. So I've already got so much time and work into this one here. I would prefer not to paint it, so that something for the future. I've just been sitting here putting this thing together and honestly thinking about trying to track down another HX35. So because I have so much time into the compressor housing of this one, I would rather probably just leave it the way it is as opposed to paint it. That way, if I do get another one, I can throw the compressor housing from that one onto this turbo and then take that HX35 compressor housing that I put all this time and energy into, and I can do a little something different with that. And yeah, I think I need to find another HX35. So for now, probably just gonna run it as is, so it'll be a silver and black combination. So no other color under the hood of the Cummins for now. We are just gonna probably put it back together as is. I'm gonna do that right now and see if we can't get into setting the wastegate up and getting that all set so that she's just ready to go. That won't be in this video though. This video I feel like is already long enough. So now that I have finally kind of just made up my mind about not painting the compressor housing, I'm gonna go ahead and get that remounted on here so we can get a shot of the completed turbo at the end of the video for you, and you guys can see 100% what it looks like as it sits right now. We will have good weather coming up soon enough to where we can rip the HY35 off my 01 24 valve Cummins and get this HX35 turbo on there, and then start to really play with it, see what it does, how it handles these 125 horsepower injectors, what it does compared to the HY35 turbo that comes stock on these 2000 to 2002 automatic 24 valve Cummins trucks. Let me give you guys a look of this HX35, basically all completed and together with the Turbo Smart wastegate actuator. Look at that freaking thing, man. That wastegate is such a good option for this. The black exhaust housing that I obviously have to wipe down because I got greasy fingerprints and stuff all over it. So I will wipe that down and have that looking a little bit better when we put it on the truck. We did clean up the little brackets here that hold the bearing housing into the exhaust housing. Also, when putting the center bearing housing back into the exhaust housing, I did use some good old trusty anti-seize on there to hopefully be able to get that thing back apart. I probably will be pulling it off the truck again in the near future, and I just want to make sure that it will come apart easier than it did the first time we were fighting it. But that compressor housing looks so much better, guys. Look at that freaking thing. And honestly, I think it looks good like that with that wastegate actuator. The black with the silver just freaking goes, man. It looks so good. I probably should just take the time to really go over this even more and smooth this out better and stuff, but like I said, I'm gonna look for another HX35 turbo. So if you guys have any leads on any, or you know of something anywhere, let me know and I will follow up on that and look into it, see if I can't get it here at my house and pick that up, because I would like to continue the work on this housing but still have another one. I want to have another HX35 turbo here, and I have some plans in my head that I can't let you know of right yet, but I do want another HX35, and I'm not going to paint this housing just yet because we are going to at some point have this back off the truck and continue to smooth it out and just have a super clean and fresh compressor housing on the truck. I am absolutely in love with the way that this thing is looking so far though, and super stoked that we are this close to being able to put it back on the 24 valve Cummins that you see behind me. I can't wait, guys. So I'm gonna get into trying to set the wastegate actuator right now, getting that all set up and ready to go so that this thing is absolutely just ready and we can put it on the truck as soon as we have time to do that and the weather permits it. So I want to cut this one off here, and if you guys could do me a huge favor for the HX35, most importantly, hit that like button, because guys, we are this close to being able to put this HX35 on the 24 valve Cummins, so that is worthy of a thumbs up. If you're stopping into the channel for the first time, you just came across it and decided to see what it was all about, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. As you can see, we are getting ready to install an HX35 turbo on my 2001 automatic 24 valve Cummins, which comes stock with an HY35. So we are going to get into that, be able to compare the HY and the HX35 turbos, see how either of them perform with 125 horsepower injectors and a couple of other things that are done with this truck and more mods to come. So hit that like button, hit subscribe, comment down below all your feedback, anything you want. I really don't care. I'm just like on cloud 9 right now, and I will see you guys in the next video when we are setting the wastegate actuator. Peace. I just wanna